Hello and welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is American Ben. The Mandalorian just did something so important for Star Wars lore. But first, gosh, it feels great to have all of this new Star Wars content on the way. I mean, now you can quarantine me forever. I no longer have a reason to go outside and hang with my friends or go to parties. Okay, fine, I don't get invited to parties and my only friends are you guys. Still, it's hard to not be excited about all of the new content on the way. And to y'all out there who are still grumpy about everything Star Wars, listen, I get it. But you did your job. You held the line and demanded fan-friendly content, and you got it. So maybe just ease up on the whole hate flowing through you thing for a bit and just be happy, at least until you watch the shows. I'm definitely looking forward to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Acolyte, which will follow the emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era, also has a lot of promise. And I personally think that low-key, Star Wars Visions, that Japanese anime thing, could be the dark horse here. I have a really good feeling about it. Point is, there's gonna be a lot of content for us to cover over the next few years, so stick around. Let's have some fun. Now on to The Mandalorian. That last episode sucked. Just kidding. I actually think it helped The Mandalorian take a step up in sophistication. Actually, I think Chapter 15 might have been the best episode yet. They should definitely let this guy Rick Famuyiwa helm more episodes. And sorry if that's not the right pronunciation of his name. The first half of the episode was just all right, but full disclosure here, I am a complete shill for Bill Burr. I love everything he does. He's my absolute favorite comedian in the entire world, and thank God for him, especially in society today. Burr is a national treasure, and as crazy as he is, if he comes under threat, we must use the full might of our military to defend him. I'm even okay with employing our nuclear arsenal to do so. Now, did I think Bill Burr was utilized perfectly? Well, he still isn't quite bringing enough of his humor to the role, and for the first few scenes of Chapter 15, he seemed to be searching for a rhythm. And when he finally did find his comfort zone, while he might not have been stand-up comedian Bill Burr in all his glory, instead he made for a pretty interesting character. I gotta say, he's a good actor, that Burr. Damn. Even down to his slight facial movements. Overall, this episode is one of the first in the Mandalorian series to really make me feel tense during some of its scenes, especially when Burr's character Mayfeld and Din Djarin were in the presence of ISB officer Valen Hess, who was just so delightfully depraved. Now, Chapter 15 did a lot of things well, but one aspect of the episode really stood out above all others for me. That is, it started to explore the humanity and complexity of Stormtroopers and other agents of the Empire. Stormtroopers are, for me, the most neglected element of Star Wars lore. There's plenty of underserved parts of the lore, don't get me wrong, but the Stormtroopers are maybe the most iconic fictional infantry force in all of cinema, and up until now they've largely been relegated to one-dimensional cannon fodder status. The sequel trilogy started to give Stormtroopers their due when it introduced Finn. The escape sequence with him and Poe was magical. You could see the fear on Finn's face and hear it in his voice as he risked his life to escape the First Order. Now, to be fair, I know that Star Wars feature films have a lot to cover, so it's hard to really dive into the background of any single character. But after being introduced to Finn in the way we were, I was really hoping that the sequel trilogy would devote serious time to exploring his backstory and that of other Stormtroopers vis-a-vis their feelings about the Empire, their regrets, their feelings, and so on. Yet it wasn't really until The Rise of Skywalker that the Stormtrooper arc was revisited with the introduction of Janna, like Finn, a character who went AWOL from the First Order ranks. The scene in which Finn met Janna and learned about her background was, to me, the most impactful and meaningful conversation in the entire movie, and maybe trilogy. Here we had these two people who have only known the way of the First Order for most of their lives, who dealt with moral conflict in carrying out their duties on behalf of the First Order, and who risked their lives and turned on their friends to escape to a new life. And now, for the first time, each of these two characters had someone to connect with, share in their pain with. I just wish that this theme, that of the moral conflict of Stormtroopers and other semi-unwilling agents of the Empire, was more explored. Disney literally has this element in the Stormtrooper Corps that is just rife with potential stories of great substance. I mean, it's at least time for the Stormtroopers to shed their one-dimensional status. And Chapter 15 of The Mandalorian indeed gave some hints that this is where Star Wars is headed with all of its new content to come over the next few years. As you know, in the episode, Din Djarin and his crew were trying to infiltrate an Imperial refinery on the planet Morak in order to access a terminal that contained the coordinates of Moff Gideon, who is holding Grogu captive. In order to gain access to the refinery, Mando and former Imperial sharpshooter Mayfeld hijacked an Imperial combat assault transport known as a Juggernaut, carrying a shipment of Rhydonium to the refinery. After taking control of the vehicle, Mando and Mayfeld were attacked by pirates, and just when all seemed lost, it was Imperial forces that swept in to save them. And you can see the moral conflict start to brew in Mando and Mayfeld as the very people they could be about to kill just saved their lives. And the Stormtroopers in the refinery were no baddies. Instead, they greeted Mando and Mayfeld as comrades and applauded them, making the situation even more awkward for the two men. I don't know about you, but in that moment I instinctively thought to myself, gosh, I hope that no one has to die, and in the end, all of these people can be friends. Fail. But still, the show did a good job making me, the audience, deal with the same moral conflict that Din Djarin, or maybe more so Mayfeld, was dealing with. By the way, I loved the scene in which Mayfeld stepped in to cover for Mando in the mess hall just before Val and Hess discovered their ploy. Burr did such a good job of expressing a touch of fear layered beneath a confident disposition, but it was the scene at Hess's table that was the most important for the direction of Star Wars. Hess joyfully toasted to the memory of Operation Cinder, an Imperial assault on various planets in 4ABY that was part of Palpatine's larger contingency plan. The success of Operation Cinder became a rallying point for the remnants of the Empire, but during the fighting itself, Mayfeld's entire division was wiped out, along with an entire city and its inhabitants. It kind of does sound pretty glorious of a death to me. Anyway, here we saw into Mayfeld's mind. We saw what makes him tick, as his ire was stoked by Hess's nonchalance at the death of his fellow soldiers, men and women who died in no small part due to Hess's orders. And Burr delivered this scene perfectly. It was so authentically Bill Burr, and yet true to Star Wars at the same time. I could feel his bubbling rage and pain. I could sense him restraining himself from murdering Hess on the spot, which of course he failed to do. The point is that this scene helped us think about the costs of Imperial actions, helped us look into the sacrifices that soldiers on the ground had to make to advance the Empire's goals. And most importantly of all, it offered us a voice in Mayfeld through which these soldiers could share their feelings and the inner conflict they experienced as a result of the terrible things that they were made to do on behalf of the Empire. More of this, Disney. More of this. And more of Bill Burr, of course. By the way, is it just me, or did Mayfeld being abandoned by Mando and his crew on Morak not seem like the best possible outcome for him despite being spared from imprisonment? I mean, can't he just tag along with the group? Okay, I won't complain. Plus, I bet Mayfeld's gonna show up again in future Mandalorian episodes, as well as in the Ahsoka series at some point. Make it happen, Disney, please. Anyways, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do give it a big thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Chapter 15 and what you want to happen in the final episode. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. For now, my name is American Ben, and I'll catch you next time. Generation Films, peace.